Imagine a life where each day is not a countdown to the weekend. Early retirement could be the next step for you to allow you to embark on new travel adventures or just simply enjoy leisurely mornings without the pressure of deadlines kind of constantly swirling through your brain. Stepping away from the 40-plus hour work week could allow you to savor more of the present moments and live every day like the weekend. We have three main resources in our life: our time, our health, and our money. And really, it's up to you to help balance between those three to live a life of happiness and purpose. So, when you're younger, you need to earn the money and you have an abundance of time and you're in good health. At this phase, you're more than happy to trade off time for money, as you know, overall, it's helping you get closer to those long term goals. But as you progress through your life and continuing to make this trade, you start to be more aware of the fact that your time and your health at some point start to become really scarce resources. So it's imperative to be aware that there's a point where continuing to work may be costing you more than you realize. I'm Amber Knips, a wealth advisor at Sweet Financial Partners located in Fairmont and Jackson, Minnesota. And I specialize in working with high net worth individuals to prepare for life's biggest transitions, both expected and unexpected. We believe everyone has the right to realize that their dreams are possible and use that as our focus when working with clients and helping them plan for the future. We're starting to see a trend of people choosing to work longer, with roughly 1/3 of baby boomers say that they expect to continue working at least until age 70. And that was a study according to the Insured Retirement Institute. So for some, continuing working, maybe that helps you feel fulfilled. But for most, that might not seem so appealing. So when you've been working for decades, retirement might seem like it can't come soon enough. If you haven't gone through the planning process to see if early retirement is an option, you are doing yourself a disservice. I want to go through the 4 reasons why you may be better off retiring as soon as you can. And reason number 1 is time. You can always make more money, but unfortunately, you can't make more time. So, like we talked about earlier, time may be one of your very most precious resources. And a question to ask yourself is, are you using it wisely? Or maybe better yet, are you allowing external things to get in the way of using your time wisely? So, an important activity that I would encourage you and challenge you to do is to grab a pen and a piece of paper and write down all of the things that are important in your life. I feel like this is so important. So, to help that it doesn't get lost or pushed to the side for another day, now is a great time to pause this video and write all of those things down. And once you have those down, then next to each of those, jot down how much time you're currently allocating to each of those, pausing again if necessary. I did this with someone earlier this week at one of our regular check-in appointment meetings, and he had a great list: fishing with grandkids, taking his wife on dates, reading for fun. And when we got to that second part, he kind of froze up a little bit. You know, the point of being honest with yourself and realizing, holy cow, another year's gone by and really you didn't accomplish what you thought. It's amazing of how many people are living to get through the day to day and not being intentional with their time, their savings, how they're spending their days. And I'm guilty of this too. And oftentimes I need to sit down and have a reality check to focus on how am I spending my time and not get caught up in the busyness of life, 4 young kiddos, and instead being really intentional about how I'm spending each of those moments. If you think to yourself, you want to spend more time doing what's important to you with the people that are the most important to you, instead of just continuing along day by day, not realizing how much working could be potentially costing you, then something really important to consider is, what is the opportunity cost to working, and is that exceeding any of those financial rewards? It's important to know that if you're working because you want to, that's completely different, and instead not working because you're fearful of the unknown. I recently sat down with a client who just lost her husband, and we were going through helping her simplify her financial situation, spent a lot of time coordinating and consolidating everything because although they were really great savers, they had accounts everywhere. And it was a mess trying to figure out where everything was and everything after he passed. And one thing we always do as a priority with new clients is finding out, what do you want your wealth to be doing for you and your family? And this is where she got really emotional. And she said for her, they put off retiring because they wanted to have a really amazing retirement. They had all of these things that they wanted to do, and they knew that it was going to cost. But now he's gone. And she carries a lot of regret that they wasted so much time working and not retiring sooner to get to spend that time together. You can always go back to work after you retire if you have to, or if you change your mind. It might look a little bit different, but it's always an option. But something you can't do is go back in time and retire earlier if you regret working longer. Which leads me into reason number 2 is your health. It's easier to enjoy a more active lifestyle the younger you are. So retiring earlier can help you enjoy all of those years to the fullest, especially if you want to be more active. So maybe you want to travel and spend more time outdoors, or maybe it's just running around chasing those grandkids. But those activities are easier the younger and healthier that you are. So in addition, by retiring earlier, you have more years to enjoy doing those activities. Unfortunately, you never know when your health might start to decline. So the sooner you retire, the more time you have to check off all of those items off your list. So speaking of bucket lists, reason number 3 is, have you set the right goals? So many times I sit down with a client for their first planning meeting and they state all of their different goals, like, I want to retire when I'm 60, or I want to stop working when I have $1 million. But when it comes down to it, age is just a number and money is just one of the tools to help you achieve what's most important to you. And it's going to flow in and out of your life. Think of it like if you're building a house, for example. You can have all of the tools that you need to successfully build that house, but if you don't have a blueprint with plans, how are you going to know where to start? How do you gauge your success? So many of you might be at that exact same place, is that you've built up an emergency fund, you've diligently saved in your 401k, maybe a Roth IRA on the side, and now you have all of those tools, but you might need to take that extra step to build that blueprint and figure out what's next. And that's one of my favorite things to do for my clients, is to help look at all of the possibilities and the freedom that your wealth can create for you. And it looks different for everyone. So be careful in getting caught up in the shoulds. The fact that you're watching this video right now shows that you're a learner and you're searching for the next steps to help you navigate retirement. If you do a quick Google search on how much money do I need to retire, you're going to get hundreds of different answers on exactly what you need. There's so much information at your fingertips with videos, blogs, articles, books, and they're all great resources. But I hate to break it to you, there's no magic number that works for everyone to know if you, quote, made it. And it just looks different. So, when you're looking at setting those goals, look at it from the lens of experiences that you want to have and who you want to create that with. And then put numbers according to, what that looks like, what kind of resources are going to be needed to achieve each of those. Or if you have a specific concern that you have a big goal to protect against, then it's brainstorming and saying, okay, what do you need to do to address that? So instead of constantly being fearful to spend because of the what ifs, you're again being very intentional. Which leads into reason number 4, is that you're probably in a much better financial position than you think. At Sweet Financial, we talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, which is the concept of getting something 80% of the way oftentimes is enough. That by doing something different with the remaining 20% can oftentimes unlock a lot of potential in your life. That remaining 20% might not have that big of an effect overall. So as a recovering perfectionist, I'm constantly reminding myself that getting something almost all the way there is enough. Because oftentimes 100% might not even be achievable because it's a moving target. You are trained to constantly think more of what's next, wanting more, and it's easy to get caught up in your brain of thinking you need more. So it's possible that you'll never need to be 100%, that 80% might be sufficient. In looking at spending in retirement, most people tend to overestimate what their spending will be, assuming that it'll change every year and continue to grow with inflation, where oftentimes that's not the case. Is we see maybe you want to take some big trips, but it's not something that you'll do every year. Morningstar actually did some research on this and they call it the retirement spending smile. And what that means is oftentimes in the beginning part of retirement, you're spending more because you're young, you're feeling good, and you have lots of things that you want to accomplish and do that maybe you didn't have the flexibility to do while you're working. And then eventually it kind of starts to dip down a little bit as you settle into kind of the comfortable space of retirement, and maybe you don't have as many big trips that you want to take. And then eventually increasing towards the end of that span because perhaps medical expenses increase or you shift into needing some additional care. The point is that everyone should have a base understanding of what you need from a cash flow standpoint to keep the lights on, buy the groceries, etc. And having that baseline then helps you look forward. I would argue that most people I come across are living every day at their baseline and they're missing out on a lot of opportunities. So I would encourage you to start putting those numbers together. And then from there, having someone help you coordinate, really that next step and where to go from there. And that's going to help you determine how early you can retire. A recent survey from Global Atlantic Financial Group found that more than half of Americans have financial planning related regrets. Unfortunately, regrets may be an inevitable part of life, but you need to be careful because they can easily ruin your retirement. And that's why I encourage my clients to think through all of the things that it's possible they want their wealth to do for them, and really having that be the goal of why you're doing and making all of the decisions that you do. Because like I mentioned earlier, you can always make more money, but unfortunately you can't make more time. So a question to ask yourself is, are you using it wisely? Or better yet, are you allowing external things to get in the way of using it wisely?